Hey there, folks. It's me, Michael Bach, your diversity dude, and it's time for another episode of Monday Morning Musings. And today I wanted to talk about what happened over the weekend in Edmonton as part of their LGBTQ plus Pride celebration. If you haven't seen any of the news coverage, and I'll put an article down here in the body of the video, a group of protesters locked arms and stopped the parade from proceeding until the Edmonton Pride Society agreed to some four demands, essentially, though excluding the inclusion of police and military from marching in the Pride Parade until such time as the community as a whole feels more comfortable with their presence. And this sort of movement to exclude the police and now the military from Pride celebrations goes back a couple of years when Black Lives Matters in Toronto held up the parade and again insisted that the Pride organization sign or agree to a list of demands, which included excluding police. And in fact, Pride societies and Pride organizations across the country have taken proactive steps to exclude the police from inclusion. And it has become really divisive in the broader LGBTQ communities, with people who are on one camp or another. There's the camp that says, yes, they should be excluded. And then there's the camp that says, no, Pride should be inclusive. And I actually kind of sit in the center where I do believe that Pride should be inclusive. But I also recognize that the experiences of some members of the LGBTQ plus community are not the same as mine. And I have to respect that. So there's a couple things. I've been thinking a lot about this, particularly since this just came up this past weekend. And there's a few things that come to mind. First of all, for those who think that Pride is just a big party, Pride is political. It is a protest. It is a statement. And I'm all for Pride getting more political because as somebody who was at one of the first Prides some 30 years ago, I know I don't look that old. I mean, how could I possibly be that old? Let's move on from that. Pride was political. Pride was a protest. Pride was in your face. And slowly over the years, it's become more of a celebration. It's become funded by a lot of big organizations, and it's gotten less political. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be. And I think it's important, particularly for young people who are identifying as LGBTQ, that you don't forget your history, that you remember, that you understand that there were a lot of us who were fighting for our rights. And it wasn't, that long ago that we didn't have them. On the topic of the exclusion of the police, I've actually come to a place where I agree with the protesters on this one. And what I mean by that is the police and military have a lot of work to do in order to be inclusive of all members of the LGBTQ plus communities. As a white cis man, I don't have any problems related to my sexual orientation. I'm not getting stopped by the police or harassed. But that doesn't mean that my experiences are consistent with the rest of the community. The reality is that for many members of the community, those who are racialized, those who are trans, even women, their experiences with police and the military are significantly different. And the police and military have a lot of work to do in order to be more inclusive of the broader, full LGBTQ community. And it is a bit contradictory to include them in our celebration and at the same time be fighting with them to be more inclusive. So I think the reality is we should exclude the police until they do a lot more work to be more inclusive. And I do recognize that there are LGBTQ members of the police service, people in uniform who identify as being members of the LGBTQ plus communities. I get that. And we welcome you to celebrate at Pride. Understand that your uniform represents something to a lot of people. So my message is a fewfold. To the protesters, more power to you. thank you for continuing to fight for the rights of people within our community. To the people who are getting upset that their parade gets disrupted, suck it up, Buttercup. It's time for us, and I'm talking about members of the LGBTQ plus communities who are integrated into society, who are not facing issues of racism and transphobia and homophobia and anti-Islamic feelings and anti-Semitism. Those of us who look a lot like me, we need to stop talking and start listening. We need to remember that the LGBTQ includes a lot of people that don't look like me and you. And that rhymed deliberately. So we need to shut up and listen. We need to accept that perhaps people from different racialized communities, people from trans communities, non-binary groups, that their experience at Pride, when there's police there, and their experience in everyday life is very different. So shut up and listen. And to the police and military, you have a lot of work to do, and it's time to do that work. We want you to do that work. We want you to come and celebrate with us. But it's very hard for us to do that when after Pride is over, after the parade is done and the banners are all put away for another year, that there are members of our community that are going to face issues of homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia, as well as racism and other isms at the hands of your service members. So you have a lot of work to do, and we're ready to do that work with you. That's it for me. I hope you have a fabulous Pride. If you have a Pride coming up, I'm going to be coming at you next week from Vienna, Austria, where I am a guest of Tourism Vienna for their Pride to celebrate and promote Euro Pride, which will be held in Vienna in June of 2019. So I'll be doing a remote. But I hope you have a fantastic week. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. This week in particular, I'll be doing lots of different live posts, so it won't just be Monday. And I will see you next week for another episode of Monday Morning Musings.